Hi, I'm Ashley Jones. I'm a technical product owner based here in the United States. And the team has been working on a feature release that's actually scheduled for release in CHT 4.6. This is a feature release that includes the uplift to a more recent version of Enketo. Enketo is the open source project that CHT uses to render all the forms and do all the calculations of the fields within the CHT core. And what we've found is that if you're on a 3x version, there is a very large increase. You can see the bar is high on the left. That's CHT 315, processing a complex form on a device. And that for every upgrade, we get faster until you get to the Enketo feature release, which is on the far right. This also includes a ability to turn off the synchronous updates within Enketo. So you'll see there's two feature releases there. There's a 4.4 Enketo and a 4.4 Enketo async. So far, we were hoping that the async would show a dramatic speed improvement, but we're not yet seeing it, so it may not be something that's beneficial. We've been in touch with a partner who had initially requested this, but we realized that the benefit for uplifting Enketo would be for everyone, so that's why we did the feature release, and while we're scheduling it for CHT 4.6. Another project that we worked on recently is CHT-conf, which is the command line utility that is used to push configuration changes from the development environment to production. As well, it is used on GitHub to do automatic deployments through continuous deployment. There was a partner who had an error where there would be maybe out of 400 or 500 requests that CHT-conf would issue to the CHT server, that one of them might fail. And the way CHT-conf was initially architected, this single failure would cause the entire application update to fail. And in a continuous deployment scenario on GitHub, this would mean you would be continually trying to push your app config changes to production. With the retry, it should fix this by skipping just the one error, retrying the one error, and persisting through to get the changes live.
I think I can see Marco. I'm not sure if he has managed to test that feature. I think he was interested in that.
And maybe that was a comment from the prior Nepali presentation who had wanted a pause feature. I know that we're looking into that. Marco, if you want to add more context to your question or come off mute.
Me?
Yeah.
Sorry, to add question.
You had said that a save function would be a great feature. Is that a comment on my presentation or the earlier presentation for pause?
Oh, yeah, that was on the previous presentation. Sorry.
Yeah.
It was just a remark.
Thank you. Yeah, that is a feature that we're looking into, and it has been requested. So, thanks.
My name is Michael Cohn. I'm a product manager for the care teams here at Medic, and normally based in the US, currently in Nepal. Wanted to share a few updates with you that we've been working on. The first one is this search by barcode. So this is something that we shared in the last Roundup call as well. But now it is actually in a feature release and available to use. And we have a project, I think, going live with this tomorrow. People are going to start using it. So the CHT has had the ability to scan barcodes into forms when you're registering people or submitting forms and stuff like that. It already had the capability to scan barcodes using the camera from the app. What it did not have was the ability to search based on those barcodes. So we have added that capability in a feature release. And Mr. Jones, if you wouldn't mind tapping the play button on that, I would appreciate that. It does not work for spoons, only forks. And here's some information about that as well. So yeah, you'll see that there's a little icon up there in the upper right, and you tap on that and it brings up the camera and it does the search real quick and easy. No, that was actually very fast. But so yeah, basically, right. Can you pause that actually on the first screen? Actually, all right. I'll pause it right on the next screen when the contacts tab comes up. There we go. Okay. So you can kind of see that little QR code looking thing next to the search. That's where you would tap to bring up the camera. And basically, the app just treats it as a normal search and looks up the ID based on the barcode. The link that I shared in the chat goes into some more details about some of the different types of barcode types that it supports and some other kind of parameters around that. But it's pretty excited about this feature. It's being used in Malawi where the people have a health passport that has the barcode right on it. So that's what they're scanning. So yep, excited about this feature. It is available in a feature release that you can use. It's based off of 4.4.1, I believe. The link that I shared, some more details. Another just quick one that will be in 4.6 as well is on the reports tab. If you're tapped on a particular report, up at the top, there's a hyperlink to the actual patient for that report that takes you directly to that patient on the contacts tab or the people tab. The messages tab, you can see at the top, there's also the person's name, but it was not hyperlinked. It is now hyperlinked, and it will be hyperlinked in 4.6. So that one is done and merged and ready to roll. Another thing that we added was some great documentation around syncing. So we got a lot of questions around this, and we realized that we didn't have it documented well in the doc site. So we added a bunch of documentation about syncing in general. There were always kind of questions about when does the system sync? So you can see that it's listed here. When you first log in, if you click on the Sync Now button, it also will periodically sync. It'll try to do the syncs periodically. There's also, so we've got all the documentation updated on the doc site with everything you'd need to know about synchronization. I do have a link for that too, and I hear some interesting background noises. There we go. There you go. So that is right there. And finally, just kind of a small one, but we updated the default branding for the CHT. It used to just have the medic logo at the top. Now we have the Community Health Toolkit as the branding in the app. And that's throughout the system. And I know most projects will use their own branding on there, and this is just what kind of comes out of the box that you can change. So yeah, that's it. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out.
Right. Thank you very much, Michael and Ashley, for the presentation. I see there is a comment from Brian regarding this search by barcode as well as +1 for the sync doc.
Just going to mention, that's definitely something that we're excited about as well for stock monitoring stuff. So, I'm just trying to find something around here that actually has a barcode, but lots of things have barcodes on them. In particular, medicines and stuff like that, they'll have like a lot number or a batch ID for production dates and stuff like that. And a lot of times those would be real annoying to manually key in. So being able to scan those in will be really, really helpful. So yeah, I definitely can see this barcode feature being used and being very useful for stock monitoring.
So hello everyone, I'm Giovanna Ndongo. I'm a software engineer at Medic, specifically on the ecosystem team. And I'll talk about like some developments in CHT Sync. So last month, over the past month, we've been actively working with a partner, specifically with Uganda, trying to set up some dashboards for one of the deployments there. And through that, we learned quite a lot in terms of CHT Sync and how we can better support partners in deploying it and implementing it. So one of the things we discovered, like the first bullet point there, is like having CHT Sync and all the associated containers running on the same server essentially as the database, because we're running everything in Docker. Ideally, you need to have some good server specs or just have everything separated. One thing that comes up quite a lot is SSH tunneling from Superset. So for some context, CHT Sync is the tool that we use to move data from CouchDB, which is the main database used in CHT Core, to another DB, in this particular case, Postgres, where now it can be queried specifically so that people can either do dashboards or just do queries on the Swift data, just because it's easier, and CouchDB doesn't necessarily support that. So for this particular one, we're using Superset, and SSH tunneling for a secure database is essential. And it's one of the things that out of the box doesn't come enabled. So through this, we figured out like quite a bit of a roundabout way to do it. We took some few tries to get it right, but we finally did. And we'll be updating the documentation because we do recommend Superset as the default dashboarding tool that we want to recommend. And then one of the main things that we learned is how to properly set up the DBT models so that we don't have constantly refreshing of the views. So for anyone who doesn't have context in that, views are quite easy. They're good to query, especially if you're querying them a lot, because like you'll have a lot of, they're easier than just querying base tables. But one thing we discovered is that with DBT, whenever views are refreshed, like it's dropped and recreated. So when your dashboard is trying to query a particular view, it gets an error that that particular view doesn't exist. But it's only a problem for a few seconds. But one thing we discovered is if you have everything in the base queries done with incremental tables and then have views built on top of that, then essentially bypass that problem. And we'll be adding that as best practices for how to set up your DBT models. And then another outcome of this whole process has been one thing we're doing right now is just streamlining the deployment process. So it's not as easy to get set up. We have a command that is npm run production that sets up like the base what you require, which is the CHT Sync and Logstash and Postgres. But in this one, we will also be adding optionally Superset as well with all these features enabled. And then on the next slide, that just shows a comparison. Yeah, so here I just took a screenshot of DBT running and the models and requiring. So on the left, you have like in that particular project, we're using a lot of tables there. So you'll see we have 15 view models and 3 table models and 3 incremental models. So the idea there was to use a lot of view models so that everything is fast when you're querying. And then on the right, you notice that that was changed. So you have now more incremental models, which are 12, and then 1 raw SQL model, and I think no view. Yeah, so these might get a bit technical, but with incremental models, essentially just saying only add stuff that wasn't there before when rerunning DBT. So the performance gains are minimal, but they're still there. If you look at the timestamp there, but in the sense, the main thing that we solve there is that particular case of having a view not available when you query it. So all this has been quite insightful, and it's just bolstered like our resolve to have CHT Sync properly set up, and yeah, that would be the default tool that we recommend to get data out of CouchDB for querying and creating dashboards. that's it from me. I'm happy to take any questions.
Again, Ashley here with some updates on CHT Core 4.5 release. The three main things that I'm highlighting are creating SMS schedules with a start from array variable, targets in material design, and scheduling outbound tasks. This first one came up in the forums, actually from an internal employee, but we often do post publicly in the forum so that folks can appreciate the problems that we're solving even within the company. And this was a need to change the way that the SMS were sent in Nepal, which has a number of SMS-based deployments. So an additional configuration was added with the start from array that allowed the schedule to work the way this deployment wanted. You'll see this forum is a heavy-handed hint that we would love for folks to post their comments and ideas on the forum so that we can help improve them. Another change in 4.5 was the material design. This is the effort by Care Team to gradually improve the different areas of the app. So you can see on the left, there's the old version of a target for CHW, and on the right is just the same data, but in the material design format. And the last item here is that outbound tasks are now have the ability to be sent on a schedule. This, I believe, came up also on the forum, as you can see, where there was a outbound push for a DHIS2 integration, and it was really hammering the server in a way that was not helpful. So they wanted to be able to do that at a specific time. And so that this feature was introduced to allow that schedule to be set in the app settings.
Thank you, Ashley. I see there's a question in the chat. Would you like to take that?
I will do my best. If you set the schedule, it won't be triggered on submit. I believe that is correct. I often am not the author of these and have to go read the documentation. There is documentation on this, Marco, and there is a forum post as well that I cited there on the slide. I'll go ahead
I can help out.
Oh, great.
I can help out with that
Thanks.
answer. Yes, yeah, so it's not triggered immediately. You can set a cron as part of the schedule. So you can set up like a cron and it will be sent out. All outbound requests will be sent out based on the cron that you set up. So does that answer you, Marco?
Yes. So our submitted forms until that point will be like waiting in a queue, or and then sent at a particular point of time.
Yeah, no, not queue. They're mainly just in the database. But yeah, you can configure it up as queue. And yeah, you set up a cron job for that particular. So you have your qualifying criteria, and then anything that fits the criteria for the request. So it could be like a form submission or something. Unless that particular cron job happens, then we just check, since the last time we sent, what are the new things that we need to send out, and then yeah, all of them happen at that particular point.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
Bran, I can see your hand is up.
Yes, Anthony, thanks. Just to take us just one step back, I thought the cron job for batch processing is a very interesting one. In the past, the question was always the duration of the end-to-end data transfer. If a community of worker is in the field and they sync data, how long does it actually take to get to the dashboards? And when we're still communicating to partners, that's still a question that comes up. Because partners are trying to understand this definition of real time and how real time is real. And so between this and CHT sync and the dashboards themselves, how are we looking at that entire end-to-end hop for the data so that we can sort of have the right way to communicate that to partners? I'm curious.
All right. Thanks, Brian, for the question. And I think your question is related to syncing and how long it takes for the data that the CHP or the CHP has been able to sync to reflect on the dashboard. And I think still that will be handled by Njuguna because it relates to what they're working on for the CHT sync and CHT pipeline. And also he can
Yes.
be able to clarify on the cron job setup.
Yeah, I'll answer the first question. I think I need a refresher on what exactly the question is for the concept. I didn't quite get that. But before that, yeah, for dashboards, it's always interesting. So for CHT Sync, it's a few presentations back, we mentioned that it's near real time. It's nothing particularly that's going over the internet is like exactly real time because you still have to wait for the request to be made, like the CHWs, CHPs to sync to the server, and then the server to now send it out to the other database for it to be queried. But from our testing, it's very near real time. So if you go back to a few slides, you'll see some of the requests that we are running with DBT. Yeah, you will just see the previous one immediately previous before this, the next one. So this is just no, the next one, not previous, just showing the screenshots there. So here we were just showing like the screen grab of data just syncing directly from like DBT refreshing. And you can see like we are talking about milliseconds here. And the pertinent question is about syncing from now CouchDB when it's synced in the server to getting to this space. And that one, it's configurable. But the default setting on CHT sync, I think, is about every second or so. We have logstash, which is what we're using to copy over data. Logstash copying over stuff from CouchDB now to Postgres. So it's as near real time as you can get with some of this stuff. Although that now doesn't take into account CHWs and how long they take. They could be a month or offline, and then they come back and they're seeing data from last month, and your dashboards are now updated because the people have been offline. That's still a problem that needs to be addressed. But once it's on the server, we have a good way to get it on the dashboards quite easily. Also, just to add on to that, it also depends on the dashboarding tool that you're using. So for example, Superset has a way of caching data so that you're not constantly refreshing data from the database. And also that might impact how you real time you need the data to be. But I think you can set also that is configurable. You can set it to be maybe 15 minutes or 30 minutes. So which for most people that is near real time enough. Does that answer you, Brian? And then I think, Anthony, I didn't quite get the question about the cron job, if you can re-ask it.
Brian, would you mind just repeating that question on cron job?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, the response is good. I understand. I was sort of looking at the batch processing and the cron job for outbound as part of that end-to-end process for data throughout the whole ecosystem. So you're moving from admittedly an offline CHW device, Couch to Postgres, and then everything in between. Recognizing that for some partner deployments, you're more than perfect when you land at the Superset dashboard, while for others, they're still asking you to push to either some other kind of MIS or DHIS2. And so we now need to think about that whole journey as the true end-to-end movement of the data, so we can try and really see all the different hops and what's taking time where. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Brian, for clarifying that. I think it's a conversation we can continue. And Juguna, if possible, we'd be happy also to provide you an opportunity just to continue sharing more on CHT Sync. And thanks, Brian, for that question.